This is the Commercial Landscaper podcast hosted by Dave Anderson and Robert Klinkebeard. This show will transform your leadership by developing all aspects of your life in business, family, personal and health. Only by fine-tuning yourself will you truly operate as a highly functioning leader. Kalika, thank you for joining us today. Really excited for you to join Dave and I in this podcast. So Kalika, just for everybody's benefit who's on the podcast, tell us a little bit about you and your background and your stardom, please.
Hi, thank you, Robert. Thank you, David. I admire you both as incredible entrepreneurs and also friends. It's been great working with you in leadership, and I've learned so much from you. So thank you so much for this opportunity and for helping entrepreneurs, change the world. For me, I'm an immigrant. I was born in the Philippines and got a degree in journalism, hated that, then moved on to starting my first company, which is Citrus Studios. It's a branding agency where we focus on working with large nonprofits, companies like the Getty, Stanford, companies like that also help give back. Then I also invented the purse hook. I have worldwide patents on this device that I invented, which holds women's purses off the ground. I also own a waxing salon in Honolulu. And I also have a startup called Orange and Bergamot, where we provide creative agency work for female founders. And my background in EO is I joined in 2008, and it was probably the best thing I did. It was just getting out of the recession. And at that point, I really, felt really alone. And after going through 2 recessions and 9/11, at that point, I really felt like I didn't want to live, and I wanted to actually kill myself in 2008, 2009. So having EO in my life really changed, my feeling that we aren't alone. And I'm really so grateful for this tribe. I also have 2 kids and a husband. And
that's awesome. Awesome stuff, Kalika. You're also being somewhat modest because you're also an author. The Little Brand book, which is awesome. Robert, you and I can only hope to reach her level of stardom someday in the book world, but thanks. So, all right, top of everybody's mind, I know from a marketing standpoint, Kalika, and for our listeners, is we're all working from home. Our clients are working from home. How do we continue to market to our customers during these times? What are a couple just, maybe 3 key points that all of us should be thinking about as we're still wanting to, stay connected with our customers?
Well, I think that, there are 3 laws of branding: the law of consistency, the law of timing, and the law of perception. So I think at this time, timing is really important. Like, you can't be selling your wares, you can't be selling things that aren't relevant to your customers right now. If you do want to reach out to them, maybe ask them if they need any help, and then maybe use that as a potential, marketing tool. Law of consistency. I think that if you were in the past sending out newsletters or sending out videos at a certain time, keep that consistency so people know that they can rely on you. And the third one would be law of perception. This is a great time, since we aren't traveling so much, we are saving a lot of time being at home. Take a look at all your reputation online. Check your Google reviews, check your Yelp reviews, and make sure that, your testimonials are on your website, and, reach out to your customers to see if they would also help you and vice versa. But yeah, branding is really crucial, at this time.
Totally, completely agree. And those 3 laws are awesome. Dive a little deeper into those. Talk to us about personalization too right now. There's a lot of marketers out there that do, like you said, they just send one newsletter to everybody, or they're doing to the masses in time, all the time, but especially now. Talk to us a little bit about the importance and some ways to even personalize marketing to your customers.
So for instance, my book came out by Harper Collins last week, and no one really wants to talk about, personal branding or branding as a female founder. So the articles that I'm producing now are how to help these 22 million people who are out of work get jobs. And so what I did was create an article for LinkedIn and talk about how archetypes, the more that you know who you are, the more you can market yourself in a different arena. And based on your archetype, you can try to get a job within that arena that really suits your strengths rather than your weaknesses. So I think you definitely have to personalize your content for the current events.
Yeah, awesome. That's very good. We have to be very concerned about our personal brands right now. How about as if I'm a marketer along the same lines of personalized, how should we be looking to personalize the messaging to our customers? Still just kind of market to the masses? Do we need to notch it down more individual? What's your thoughts on some ways that, are great ways to personalize the marketing message to our customers also?
Well, I think there are some great tools like HubSpot. We use HubSpot a lot. And with that, you can really segment your customers in different areas. And then also you just make sure that you say hello for, and then add their first name, rather than just like hello and then it's some random last name. And I think that you can definitely adjust your messaging because HubSpot, I know I'm not an affiliate marketer for HubSpot, but because HubSpot has this Gmail integration, you can track these emails, and then as people responding to you, you can also respond back in a more personalized way. But even just asking them, like, how are you? Rather than just jumping into something that you're selling, how are you? How's the family? And then from there, just see like, how can we help? And adjust your marketing services to help them.
I would agree with that. I've definitely an advocate of HubSpot. It's something I use in my business, Kalika. Well, I have a lot of clients, and through my conversations with them over the last few weeks, one of the first targets when they're trying to reduce costs is immediately looking at marketing. Mm-hmm. And I typically try and steer them in a direction of actually trying to increase marketing and maybe have different messaging. What would your advice be for some of these owners that are now is really beginning to cut into, they're seeing the revenues drop by 20, 30, 50%, and they're looking at all the different line items, and typically marketing springs out as being the first to go.
Yeah, that's the first thing that people want to cut, but I think that that's really definitely a mistake. If you take a look at the last couple of recessions, the people who have doubled down on marketing have stayed in people's top of minds. And it really, I think, is a mistake. But I can understand why they'd want to do that because, we may be in this for 3 or 4 years. But I think that was it Vern that says, like, are you playing to win or are you playing to lose? I think that if you have that mindset that you want to win, then you'd be spending money on marketing, especially because right now there are lots of ways that you can spend money because it's cheaper. Right now, the ads have dropped, and also I believe it's Facebook and Google. They're offering grants, and if you are a nonprofit, just make sure that you apply for those Google grants so that you can get your brand awareness out there.
And what's the best way to do that? I mean, are you just approaching those companies, and are they just automatically offering reduced pricing, or what's the best approach for companies, whether it be Google, whether it be radio stations? How should people go about that?
Yeah, no, I think just reaching out to the places that you're already marketing, whether or not it's Facebook or if you're doing some TV ads. And I think this is how actually, I don't know if you were there for the owner of GoDaddy spoke. He said that's how he was able to get his marketing out. When no one was spending money, he was getting these large page ads because he was able to do that at like 25% of the cost. And also, maybe even using your influence. Let's say you have a connection with a great speaker from like the Entrepreneur's Master's program. Now we're seeing that these speakers are offering their services at 10 to 25% of their regular rate. So like, for instance, Gina Mulliken Long, who was one of our professors at the Entrepreneur Master's program at MIT, she usually charges $20,000, and now it's a quarter of that. So if you can use your connections, maybe bring them in, do some type of virtual conference, some type of virtual event that would benefit your customers, people will remember you for that.
No, I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree. And talking about the virtual part, there's been a lot of, commentary around a lot of, the way we do business is going to change. And, obviously none of us know yet what that's going to be like, but there's certainly a lot of comments about the real estate world and how less people will be going to work, people will be getting used to working from home. How does that change the way in which marketing is done in the future?
Yeah. So like, for instance, I saw an article that came through my email saying like, hey, drive more business to your retail store. Like that's so inappropriate right now because everyone's sheltering in place. So as far as it goes with real estate, I think that a lot of people are going to be reticent with going to restaurants and that there are going to be 6 feet markers around you. And I think that there's going to be more places where you're going to have like these VIP services. One of my friends who's in EO Los Angeles, she owns a climbing gym. It's a huge place, but she, we're brainstorming like, what is it going to look like? But she's imagining like just family and friends coming in for a birthday party, but no one else around, so being able to offer those types of, concierge VIP services, I think would be really good. And also offering services almost 24 hours, would also be convenient because even people who are doing like hairdressing or, like we offer, waxing, like being able to stagger these appointments so that you don't even see people coming in. That's why you have
it's finding the right social distancing. I agree with you. I think, and we've been talking to some of our clients about, how operations and your messaging now needs to also be, how do you ensure that your customers are safe? How do you not just say what your brand is, but a big part of your brand will be people feeling safe around your brand and that I can come to your location and feel safe and they've put the right things in place. So I think that, and Kalika, that kind of ties into my next question, knowing a little bit about your book, Full Confession. I haven't read the whole thing yet, but I will. Congratulations on it launching. But messaging right now, messaging with any brand is really important, and knowing what, makes you unique in that. How is this, COVID-19 going to change the messaging? What are your thoughts on that, on brands? What should they be messaging now?
What should brands be messaging right now to their customers?
Yeah, well, how do brands need to evolve their messaging?
Well, I just think that people need to be more succinct. I mean, that's also, a rule of branding. Like I'm looking at some of the ads that are coming out. It's just too many words. So you just have to realize that people are so stressed out. So they're not going to read your 12-word post. Like, I think that you should scale it back and just, at the most, write 7 to 9 words. I mean, we can follow what Governor Cuomo did, when he tweets out to help, New Yorkers stay home. Stay home, save lives, period. And I think that if you have that type of really clear, succinct message that people can actually understand, you'll go further. A lot of times people just use way too many words to be able to sell what they're selling.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Put things in phrases that people can remember. So that's great. Let's change direction a little bit right now as a mom, a successful entrepreneur, 2 kids, husband. We're all working to balance, work and home all being one right now for, a vast majority of people. What are you doing to cope with it? How are you and your husband and your kids? Any, outside of marketing, what other advice can you provide to some of our listeners?
I think this is probably the best thing that has ever happened to me. Max Planck, the German psychologist, said if you look at something differently, that object will change. And after, fretting for about a week, I realized it's such a great opportunity for me to teach my kids how to, wash their clothes, fix their bed. We don't have our nanny, we don't have our housekeeper here anymore. And I also, over spring break, asked them, we have this female founder training. They also have their own company. And so my task to them was sell a product to a stranger. And so what they did was, because I had all these books that I was planning to donate to Goodwill, they took those books, listed them on eBay, and in a matter of two and a half weeks, they sold $1,000 worth of books. And they were able to get 7 orders within the day that they started listing these books. And they just got really excited. So every day, we take a trip to the post office and they send out their packages.
Yeah, you're almost getting them to be entrepreneurs just like you.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's great. So I've got 2 questions around that. How has your communication changed within your family, to your kids, to your husband? I mean, obviously you're around each other more I mean, it's obviously a different change of dynamics, and I've certainly learned to make a lot of adjustments myself. But what type of changes have you made?
I learned a lot, going through the EMP program. And the first thing that they said is the people that are around you are the people that probably get the worst of you. So back in 2016, I made a really conscious effort to really, be more aware of my language and my tone. Because coming from, being a leader in an organization where you're delegating, constantly telling people what to do, it has to change. And I also interviewed a really great person on the podcast, a Dr. Lee Hausner. She wrote this book called Children of Paradise. And she says that as entrepreneurs, we really want our kids to be just like us, but that's completely impossible. So the goal is, how do you make your kids have some type of self-esteem? Because maybe they haven't accomplished as much as you did, of course, and also, how can you make them feel competent? And she says that there's different ways that you have to be aware of how you're communicating. Like there's a neutral way, which is like, okay, open your windows, so that you can let light in, like that's neutral. Or it's time to eat lunch, that's neutral. But how many times are you observing yourself and criticizing? How many times are you praising? And so, I think having that type of training, again, through EO, through being around entrepreneurs, just makes you really aware of like, ooh, that didn't feel right. And I also know that, I have a practice of meditation, which really helps. And because I think that you have to really be centered yourself first before you can be like that for other people. Right. And I'm also teaching them on, meditation as well, too.
2 questions around that. So what with some of the changes you've made, what changes have you seen in your kids? Just with, again, some of the dynamics that you're changing, communication and how you present yourself?
I'm just really happy that they're really self-motivated. They're now like 11 and 13. So what we do is like we set up these little contracts with them. So they already know what my expectations are, is you can't play Minecraft unless you have practiced your piano, get out of your pajamas, brushed your teeth, eaten breakfast, because they used to just head straight to the computer right away. And then it was very, very calm. I talked to them in a very calm way. We had a little contract. They signed it. And then, so when I take away their computer because they didn't do what they said that they were going to do, it's just a natural consequence. And then they know that I'm serious. But yeah, they quickly get in shape once you start taking away their things.
I love the idea of the contracts. I have the same challenges for myself with my kids. But then you touched on something earlier when you talked about meditation. I mean, how has this lockdown affected you probably have lots of daily habits. And, I've heard that other people have either increased them or maybe gone deeper in some of their habits. So how are you changing your daily habits?
I'm still continuing to meditate. I was actually meditating, my goal was to meditate 3 times a day, morning, sometime in the early afternoon and later in the evening. But now that has only been in the morning. And then what I'll do is I'll do like a walking meditation, but I don't know if I consider that meditation. But yeah, things have definitely changed. I've lost, I think 15 pounds just because I haven't been going to restaurants with everyone. And I haven't, you're just not around all that food and drink that you're always around. I think that's the one thing I've heard a lot of people that, they're headed to the fridge more, they're headed to, drinking more, So I stopped drinking in 2014. So.
Well done.
I picked up 10 of those 15 for you, Kalika. So thanks for sharing those 15 pounds. I appreciate it. So I wish I could put a lock on the refrigerator. So I also have a teenage boy at home. So there's always food out. So well, you've been so gracious with your time. I'm going to throw you one more wrap up question to kind of close out here, but also all of our listeners, if you get a chance, the little brand book, you can find it on Amazon. I'm sure it's in many other places. We'll have some information about it on the website. So thank you for that. But having been in business for a while, what message do you have for the listeners? What what inspiring words do you have for them, or what mindset should we keep as we, kind of continue and move beyond COVID-19?
Yeah, there's a French philosopher, Albert Camus, and he says, in the depth of winter, I finally learned that within me lay an invincible summer. I think that as entrepreneurs and leaders, we have the capacity, the resilience, the grit to be able to move forward. And that I've been on the other side when it's really dark, when you're in that well, and just, it just feels like darkness. And I think that we have a choice to head towards the light, to be with people who encourage and want to support and empower you. And I'm so thankful that you, and Robert have taken on this podcast to be able to do that. And we just need more people like you so that we can also continually be encouraged. But this will also pass, It's going to be a long one, 3 to 4 years probably. I've been reading a lot of the trend forecasting thing. There's a great website called Sparks and Honey that talks about trend consultancy and what's happening. It's a trend consultancy agency. And I've been also following Lee Edelcourt, she was like one of the Times most influential people in 2015. And I think that when you realize that the world is going to be completely different, just be really comfortable with change as well too. But there is light.
Well, thank you, Kalika. That's nice, inspiring words for you to finish off. We really appreciate your time today, your inspiring words, your advice and guidance for others on the call. If people want to get in touch with you to either learn more about your business or your books, how would they get in touch with you, Kalika?
Oh, I have a website. It's kalika.com, which I got in 1996.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, thank you again for your time, Kalika. We really enjoyed talking to you today, so have an awesome day.
Thank you, Robert.
This was the Commercial Landscaper podcast hosted by Dave Anderson, author of Leader is Not a Title, and Robert Klinkenbeard, author of The Ironman Mindset for Entrepreneurs. You can find more details about the show and the hosts at the radixgroupllc.com or thecommerciallandscaper.com.